And for more on the potential impact of a government default, we are joined tonight by East Bay Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Congresswoman, it's always good to have you on. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. I know your office put out an estimate that potentially, just in your district alone, we're talking about potentially 7,800 jobs that could be lost just in the East Bay alone. Millions of jobs potentially lost across the country. How devastating do you believe a default would be for your constituents?
Also, maybe 70,000 families could lose Social Security benefits, and I could go on and on. And thank you for having me, because this is a very serious issue. And for the MAGA Republicans to hold the people of our country, working families, low-income families, senior citizens, young people hostage is really a new low, if you ask me. The debt ceiling is something that we raised, I think, 3 times under Donald Trump. You incur a debt, you pay your bills. Trillions of dollars in tax cuts to the mega rich and to corporations were enacted under Donald Trump's regime. So a lot of the debt that we are dealing with has to do with the Donald Trump tax cuts. And so to hold the American people hostage is just wrong, and we're going to continue to move forward and try to find ways to make sure that we pay our bills.
All right, so the president meeting next week with congressional leaders, as we just mentioned there. What do you think his best options are here? Should he stay the course and insist that Congress raise the debt limit without any conditions?
Absolutely, and there's got to be a third way. But first, let me just say this. I'm on the Appropriations Committee and the Budget Committee. That's a separate negotiation. The MAGA Republicans need to stop it. They have coupled the debt ceiling with draconian cuts to people in our country to make, in many ways, holding people hostage to what we normally and ordinarily do. And so we have got to make sure that they're not linked together, that they're decoupled, and talk about the budget, talk about the appropriations process. This is normal. This is what we do. This is what I do. This is what appropriators and members of the Budget Committee do. But paying your bills, come on, you buy a car, you pay your car payment. If you default, they'll repossess your car. And then if you want to buy another car, the interest rates will double, or you may not even be able to buy another car. So this is outrageous, and MAGA Republicans know this. They're holding the American people hostage, and we've got to find a path forward.
Yeah, and it's important to point out, for context, that Congress lifted the debt ceiling 3 times under the Trump administration without any conditions.
So these are political games. Let me say, these are political games that Kevin McCarthy and the MAGA Republicans are playing. Kevin McCarthy's district, his people, his constituents are going to lose just as much as my constituents will. You're talking about veterans' health benefits. You're talking about student loan costs. You're talking about students in terms of the cost of student debt. They're in debt like we would not believe. We're trying to find ways to retire debt and to cancel the debt for students. They're going to have to pay more in college expenses if, in fact, on the debt.
Congresswoman, let's say you're in on these negotiations, these face-to-face talks here with Republican leaders in Congress. How do you convince them to move forward and pass a clean debt limit bill?
Well, I would start by talking to their constituents. I think this has got to be not a beltway negotiation at this point. I think people in Kevin McCarthy's district need to know, and we need to communicate better, how they're going to be hurt by the decisions and the lack of real commitment to making their lives better. And in fact, people need to weigh in with the Republicans right away. I mean, this is a democracy, and this is supposed to be following the people's views and listening to people in terms of the impact of their government policies. And so I think the public right now, this weekend, needs to weigh in these Republican districts and tell them to pay our bills and do not default on this debt.
All right. East Bay Congresswoman Barbara Lee, we always appreciate you taking the time. Nice to talk with you tonight.
Thank you. Nice being with you.